Hey guys, so I made a video a little while ago. Wait. There's something really familiar about this. What? I already did this? I only have 3 videos. How did I already do? Okay, I'm gonna have to think of a different intro. What's up, guys? I'm making another one of these. So, um, yeah, let's get to this. Dead Space 2 is a survival horror game, but rather than Resident Evil 7, which takes place on Earth, Dead Space takes place in space. Whoa, who knew? But in all honesty, Dead Space 2 does hold a very special spot in my heart, and of course that's why I'm making a Why I Love video about it. And speaking of the video, let's get started. I'm gonna basically record this like the other two, or make this like the other two, where I'm gonna have 3 to 2 different sections. I'm gonna have 3. One of them's gonna be the gameplay, which is very cool. Another one's gonna be the aesthetic, and then finally, the last one is okay, maybe it's just gonna be 2. So of course, since the game is a survival horror game, much like Resident Evil 3, the gameplay is gonna be very similar. You have a certain amount of items which you'll find, pick up, and you can even get from killing monsters, and you have a certain amount of monsters you have to fight with those items. So, at times, because the game is set to only give you a certain amount of items, you can get into some very pressuring moments where you don't really have any way to fight, and you have to try to run, or you just have to try to fight them with your bare fist, which of course can be quite brutal, which is one of the things that makes this game very fun. Different items you need for combat are obviously bullets for the different guns you can find. You'll also need health, which in this game is called like Metagel or something like that. I might be thinking of the wrong game. And finally, there's the different armors you can acquire throughout the game, which don't actually do much for combat. They just allow you to hold more stuff, which is obviously beneficial because you'll need more stuff to fight better. Another part of the gameplay is, of course, the different enemies. And so, in this game, there's a few different enemies that all add different elements of fighting to the table. There's the normal necromorphs, which is what the zombies are called, that walk around on their legs and of course attack you with those 2 big razor sharp claws on top of them. The other couple of enemies is there's these little crawler things which will hop towards you. They're not quite as bad, and then there's probably the more annoying ones, the ones with the big yellow bags on their arm that will blow you up. And yeah, there's also really big ones, because there has to be. There isn't much more to talk about when it comes to the gameplay. I've pretty much discussed everything that there is. So I'm going to go ahead and move on to atmosphere now. So the atmosphere in this game is very special. You see, just like Resident Evil 7 did, this game doesn't have any form of a heads-up display or any imagery on your screen. All of it's in the game, and so what this does is, just like with Resident Evil 7, it makes it immersive, really immersive. So, for example, during fights and things like that, well, during the entire game, Isaac, which is the main character, I haven't mentioned that yet, he has that blue line on his back, which basically indicates how much health he has. He also has a indicator that pops up when he aims his weapon, the little number counter, that tells you how much ammo he has left in a clip. Finally, there's the 3 little dots that pop up out of the gun, and those are obviously the reticle, but of course, it looks super cool because it's in the game, which is the point I'm trying to make. Having all these things inside the game creates this sense of you're completely inside the world, and everything that's happening is inside the world. And so it removes that sense that you're looking at a game screen, and rather you're looking at a movie which you're controlling. And with that, we're going to be moving over to the aesthetic. The aesthetic in this game is something that's really interesting. There's not a lot of games I've played that have this similar style. You see, each different chapter in the game has a completely different style, but at the same time it manages to follow the same style the entire game as a whole has. I think it does this mainly by having the sci-fi environments, being on a space station and all that. allows it to have this overall, this main sort of aesthetic. But then each different chapter has its own area, and this gives it a sub aesthetic, is what I'm going to call it. You see, the game goes from places like the church to places like the under part or the engineering lab areas to the part you saw earlier with the train, and it has all these different areas that just, they blend together really well while being unique and different from each other. Each one gives you a different experience while being able to remain just as terrifying and just as sci-fi as each other, and that's something that's super special, honestly. And with the aesthetic explained, we are going to move on to the atmosphere. I told you that I was going to do 3. Dead Space 2 obviously has a very horror atmosphere because it's a horror game, but something really special that it does with this atmosphere is it makes it so it switches really fast. It goes from, okay, there's a safe moment, to, holy crap, I'm getting attacked. And then it does it, and it does it repeatedly, over and over again, and this creates a feeling of no safety. And this is something that makes the game 10 times more terrifying than a lot of the other horror games I've played. Is you're never safe. You're never away from something. You're always going to get attacked right after another. But it does it perfectly, so you're never like expecting to get attacked, and it always happens, and it always manages to scare you while being recognizable. This feeling of no safety doesn't only exist in the game, it even exists inside the menu. Here, go ahead and just watch this. Do you hear that? That's right. That menu is just, it's almost horrifying. It's so creepy. I remember when I was like even younger playing this game, I was more terrified of the menu than I was of the actual game. It's so eerie. So basically, the game is just a huge mishmash of moments that are slightly creepy and eerie, to moments that are horrifying, to moments that are just straight up terrifying, to even moments like this. That is literal pure nightmare fuel. Like, I couldn't sleep after watching that. That was horrifying to me, and I like horror games. Like, it's terrifying. It's just, the game does it so perfectly. And that's exactly what I love about this game. That's why I love Dead Space 2, is that out of the other 2 Dead Space games, Dead Space 1 and 1 and 3, is it just has that atmosphere, that terrifying atmosphere that just works so well, and they did it perfectly. They built on the mistakes of Dead Space 1, and it's beautiful. Anyways, like I said in the last video, I'd love to hear what you guys think about this game, which is basically my absolute favorite game ever. And yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say about it. It's an amazing game, and if you're ever thinking about it, just buy it. Trust me, it's really good, and it's like $20 or something. It's more than worth the price. So I'm editing this video after my bedtime, so I hope I get to sleep tonight.